Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of
Yakkin about Bojack.
Yes, welcome to episode 4. We're discussing Bojack's season 4, episode 1, Zoes and Zeldas. Also came out August 22nd, 2014. And Melina, what did you think of the show?
This episode, definitely a lot happened in this episode. I feel that the other episodes I was just kind of like, a bit about. With this
Mm-hmm.
episode, like after
Yeah.
watching the whole thing, I was just like, oh my gosh. I think I can see why every time you ask me whether I think Bojack is evil or good.
Yeah, it's starting to make sense.
Starting to make sense.
This was possibly the first episode where I see seeds of plot lines. Like there's been some
Mhm.
continuation. What do you think about that?
There's definitely continuation. Some things I thought was gonna continue from the last episode did not continue in this episode.
Surprised you a bit, didn't it?
I don't know if it'll come back.
Yeah.
It might. I don't know.
Hold your breath. It might come back. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe I do, but
Foreshadowing.
yes. So why don't we jump into a summary and then we'll get into our favorite topics for this episode.
Yes.
Bojack and the crew are at an award ceremony where Mr. Peanut Butter labels Bojack as Zoe, based on the characters Zoe and Zelda on Mr. Peanut Butter's show. Diane points out that Bojack is holding Todd back, and this inspires Bojack to mentor Todd and stop being his Zoe. And eventually, Bojack does that, but then he sabotages Todd because he's afraid to be alone. Diane's ex, Wayne, is researching an article about Mr. Peanut Butter but really wants to get back together with Diane. He questions why she's with Mr. Peanut Butter, who is such a Zelda. Do you think that was a good summary?
I think that was a good summary, and I feel that there's so much that happened in the show that it's hard to summarize.
It is hard to summarize. I do think we missed out that the cold open introduced
Oh yeah.
Bojack's mentor.
Yes.
So this episode, though it's called Zoes and Zelda, we do meet Bojack's old mentor, Herb Kazaz, when he's at a comedy club.
Yes, which I hope they'll talk more about later on, because I assume. Okay, maybe I'm already thinking about what might happen in the future, but I'm thinking that guy did something that really messed up, that really screwed Bojack over.
Interesting.
But you're not gonna tell me anything, of course.
This is actually not the first time we've heard Herb Kazaz's name on the show. I'm not gonna spoil you, but in the previous episode where we talked mostly about Sarah Lynn mentions Herb.
I don't remember.
But I'll let that seed slide because we will talk more about Herb, and I think that's when it'll all click together. There's a big reveal coming up. Don't worry.
Okay, because I really don't remember that conversation with the
Yeah, I
Lynn.
don't think you're supposed to. To be honest, when I rewatched that episode, I was like, wow, they brought it up now. And I think that made me realize that the writers are really, in the first 3 episodes, they're setting up the stage for a lot of what's
Oh,
going to happen. Like when I
okay.
watched those episodes, I did think it was just filler. But now I did think they were filler, but now I think that we're getting to a point where I understand why they did those episodes first and things are leading up to something. But I won't say what. I won't say
Okay.
what.
I mean, it's getting pretty juicy so far.
Yes. Was there anything you want to talk about specifically?
Yeah, I would definitely say one of the first things was the whole idea of the Zoe Zelda paradigm that they talk about the whole time.
Yes.
So Zelda is the fun, sunny extrovert, as Wayne puts it, and then Zoe is the smart, cynical introvert,
Yes.
as far as they explain it.
I think that's so cut and dry though, right?
Yeah, it's very cut and dry. I feel like it's more of like a spectrum that people can
Mhm.
be a spectrum of Zelda from Zelda to Zoe. It's not like you're just one or the other because it's like I
Yes.
know some fun, sunny introverts, and I
Yes.
know some smart, cynical extroverts,
Yes.
and other things.
I feel like all the extroverts I know are secretly always cynical. Is that not, or is that just our generation?
I don't know. So that's interesting because I feel that most people I've met claim that they're introverts, which I was very surprised
Ooh,
about. Like I
I see.
remember I was working somewhere once, and then we had this activity where people had to, I guess, group us as introverts and extroverts and other things, and then like 80% of the people who raised their hands were introverts or
Yes.
claimed they were introverts. But I thought people were like extroverts is the most like is more common. So what is going on here?
Oh, I don't think extroverts are more common at all. I do
Okay.
think that we often conflate the notion of introvert and sociable,
Mhm.
right? Like, I think we associate extroverts as being more social, and I don't think that's true because I think introverts can be social, but we think of like the super social person as they're extroverted. So
Hmm.
that makes us think that they're more extroverts. Honestly, I think that our society rewards extroverted behavior. So even if you're introverted, if you want to be successful to some degree, you have to be extroverted or you have to at least perform with some extroverted traits like being outspoken at work, you get rewarded for that.
Mhm.
Um, being social and networking.
I guess
Yeah.
it depends, because I feel like even say I might be wrong. I haven't looked into it, but I thought I like read about like the CEOs for like the big companies, like for
Yeah.
Facebook or Microsoft. I believe I thought that
Yeah.
they said they were all like introverts. But then it's also again it's like it's not like all everyone who's extrovert will be over reward for being that, or introverts will be not
Yeah.
rewarded for something else.
I also think tech is an exception, Melina, as someone who currently works in tech. It is an exception.
True. Okay. Well. But yeah, so it was interesting like the way they brought it up, and also how it was reflected in the characters of like Bojack versus Todd, and Mr. Peanut Butter versus Diane,
Hmm.
and Wayne's a whole like, oh, I'm a Zoe, you're a Zoe, we're meant for each other kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I think that goes against opposites attract, right? Like, isn't that a philosophy?
I think opposites can attract in a way. I think if they're too opposite, there might be some problems.
Yes.
Well, for their specific dynamic, like
Hmm.
Wayne's thing, I feel like he was just saying that to manipulate and try to be an abusive person. I don't think he was actually like trying to be like, oh, we should be together because we're like birds of the same feather
Yes.
or flock. I
I
don't
think it's
remember
flock,
whatever.
but it's okay. I got you.
When they introduced him, and then like Diane was very suspicious of him right away, which also
Yes.
included me to being suspicious of him,
Diane's smart.
and smart because she's a Zoe because they're smart.
But then so is Wayne, which is, I guess, why he's, but it's so like introverts must be smart. That's rude to all the extroverts.
That is also very rude. I was just like, what do you mean? Yeah, exactly.
But
It's like,
Mr. Peanut Butter is definitely not a bright Zelda. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
I mean, we don't. He might, you know, be the smartest person ever.
you're right. Maybe we're just insulting him and picking at him, and it's not fair. But he's adorable and very nice.
Yes, he is very nice.
I do think Diane specifically is maybe looking for Zelda energy because it
Mm.
makes life a little bit easier. And I can see, not easier, but we leech a little bit of, not leech, that seems so negative. What's a nice way to say this? The people around us impact how we feel. That's how we
Hmm.
say it. Yes. So
Yes.
if we surround ourselves with positivity for some degree, even if we are not necessarily a positive person, and this is not, a comment on mental health, that's a different issue,
Hmm.
but more just your outlook and your mindset and like your environment can be impacted. And I think being around Mr. Peanut Butter can go two ways. You could also be impacted by spontaneity,
Hmm.
lightheartedness, fun playing
Hmm.
games, or you become more cynical in contrast because I feel
Hmm.
like to some degree that might happen. My example is I'm a dog person, as you know,
Hmm.
Melina.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of experience with dogs growing up. I definitely am very. I guess I'm extroverted.
Hmm.
Very social, but I do like my alone time. I don't know. That's somewhere between introvert extrovert line.
Hmm.
And my cat sometimes, I think I am the Zelda in that relationship. I am way too much for my cat sometimes. And my cat's
Uh,
just like Zoe chilling away from me and it's like, can we have like a calm, private alone sesh? And I'm like, but do we want to run? But yeah, in that relationship, yeah, I'm a Zelda. But with a dog,
mm.
I'm suddenly a Zoe. Like I think that I love high energy play with dogs, but I also get
Hmm.
tired faster than most dogs are able to tolerate it.
Mm.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm done playing now. And they're
But
like, well,
dogs are a different level.
yeah, they're like different level of Zelda, so then I become the Zoe, right? Like in that relationship, all of a sudden it flips where I'm like, yeah, now we stop playing and we like nap.
That's interesting. Yeah, with like, because our relationships change depending on the people we're with. Like you're
Yes.
saying, like we can be Zoe's in one situation, or we could be more Zelda-ish in some other situations, because
Yes.
we are also a mix of the two. Unless
Yes.
someone is completely like only Zoe and only Zelda,
Yes.
which is a bit I
One
don't know if there's a
dimensional.
situation where people can like actual real people in real life can be like that.
Yeah, I guess some people try to be consistent in their brands, but a real
Hmm.
person isn't necessarily that, right? Often a
Yeah.
brand of someone like someone famous, or even Mr.
Mm.
Peanut Butter fits into his brand so well being a Zelda, but I think that
Mhm.
he is a well-rounded person. So in real life, he would also be a mix, as you said.
Mhm. Mhm. Although their relationship is interesting. Todd's and Bojack's interactions of their Zelda and Zoe.
Yeah, I don't know if Todd is necessarily directly a Zelda. Like, I think at times he is a Zelda, where he is a
Mhm.
pep talk person to Bojack. But you
Mhm.
brought this up in a nice way where Todd is also the voice of reason last episode,
Mm.
right? And he was
Yes.
much more realistic. And he didn't want the party.
Mhm.
And now he's definitely the optimist in Bojack's situation. Bojack's very, very negative, but I don't consider him the level of Zelda that Mr. Peanut Butter's at, you know?
Yeah, dogs again are a different level.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. It's a dog situation again. What did you think of his rock opera dreams?
I think that was fun. Like I remember the first time I saw a musical, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! I can write a musical one day too." Not that I ever did.
Oh my god. I think it's so much work to compose music. I could probably write lyrics in a story. I like writing stories.
Mm.
I like writing poems. They aren't necessarily good. But writing and composing music to me, that seems too hard. That's where I like, you
Ah,
phone a friend and you say,
yes.
"Hey, do you know how to make music?" But what actually is the definition of a rock opera in comparison to other operas? Do you know? I don't know either.
Maybe the instruments, like you, including like the rock type of instruments. Maybe it like while being in opera style. I don't actually know either.
Operas are longer than musicals. We'll set it at that. And if users, if listeners have any more information about this, we'd be really open to hear and become educated. But yeah, what did you think of Todd's space rock opera?
I think it was a really like he had a really cool dream. Like,
Yes,
and the fact that he was talented enough to write a musical, to sing it all himself,
yes.
to do all of that, and have a great story.
Yeah, and he got really close, like, he was even with, another new character we met this time, we'll talk about later, the Virgil Van Cleef. He helped produce his show within 6 weeks, and he was almost ready.
Hmm.
He was training cast members, and they were getting towards a conclusion, so it was not just, like, putting it together, but he definitely also took feedback. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah, he's multi-talented. Just like I think I mentioned in the last episode, I was like, I don't like Todd is like a different character in every single episode. Like this
Yes.
time, all of a sudden he's this rock opera writer.
To be honest, that inspires me as someone who likes to try multiple different As someone who likes to try multiple different things and has a lot of hobbies, I find that a character like Todd is really inspirational because it
Hmm.
tells me that you can do everything. Not that you
Hmm.
can do everything, there's a finite amount of time, but you can do multiple things. You don't have to put yourself in a box. And I think Todd is an ideal situation for that, though he does get defeated because Bojack shat on his dream.
Oh, Bojack.
Yep.
I was not impressed with him in this episode.
Yeah. I did want to mention, I think Todd actually said that he was part of the Russian mafia at one point,
Yes,
Melina?
he
Wasn't
said
that
he
a
said
guess
that
you
in
had
his.
last week?
Well, I can. He's part of everything now, for all we
Yeah.
know.
Melina, I do wanna say congrats because you clearly are getting nails on heads. You are psychic. Did you watch this show? I didn't even remember that.
Well,
Oh.
I don't remember if he said he was part of it or if he was running away from the Russian mafia.
Oh, that's true, he's running away from it, and I
Yes.
think that had to do with Decapathon, the video game that ruined his life.
Ah, yes. The video games. Not that all
Yes.
video games ruin lives.
No, no. As our resident gamer, Melina, does Decapathon remind you of any game?
Decapathon. I actually don't so I forgot what the premise of the game
Did they
was.
tell us? I feel like to some degree they didn't. They were just like, "This is a game where people get decapitated," I assume.
I don't remember,
Maybe it's
but
like, oh, okay, so I'm looking it up. Decapathon is an in-universe game in BoJack Horseman, and it's a series of puzzle-based video games similar to Tetris, which is shocking because from the name, I thought it was about, like, decapitating people, and I was like, "Oh, is this like" I don't know, what's a violent game?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. It also has, like, fire on the package. I was like, "Oh, is this Diablo?"
Uh,
but they say it's a puzzle-based game, so it's Tetris.
Actually, I do remember Tetris because I do remember actually there was a shot of him playing it, and then we did see like the blocks coming down, but instead of blocks, it was like skull coming down or like
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah,
heart
it's, like,
coming down. Or
themed.
yeah,
Yeah, I see, themed Tetris,
yes, yes,
which is a I can see how that's very addictive.
yes. It's like how people played Candy Crush back in the day.
But Melina, did you have any games that you avoid now or that were especially time sinks?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was like an intense gamer. I definitely when I was younger, I played a lot of like Japanese RPG games. But I
Mhm.
would say that there was actually a game in my first year of university, and oh my gosh, like I don't think anyone knows about it.
Okay, that's
Um,
fine. It's
so
always good to share these shame secrets with everyone. Go on.
have you ever heard of Gaia Online?
Yes! Oh, sorry. Oh my god, sorry.
Yes.
Yes. I'm trying to not blow out my mic with how excited I get. I've heard about it because, confession, as you know, but the as you know, but the listeners do not. I read fan fiction, and on the ads I used to get pre-ad block on fan fiction would always be for
Ah,
RPG games because I think there's an overlap with the amount of people who play
yes.
MMORPGs and people who read fan fiction. I was not in that
Oh.
group, but I saw a lot of ads for Gaia.
Okay. I think it was supposed to be like kind of like a more middle school, high school kind of thing.
Yes,
Like, so I had discovered it very late.
yes.
Um,
It's okay. I
and
played RuneScape when I was in undergrad, so it's fine.
but like when I found out, and they have like
Yes.
this in game part of it called like ZOMG or something, which is a
Okay.
bunch of like fighting and leveling up, and like
Yes.
you like and stuff. But I remember that I just got so and because I was in university like first year, I like there wasn't like a struct set like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, like you had to be at school at this time and you had to go home and work and do your homework and blah blah. It was just like you could do
There's a little bit
whatever
more
you wanted.
flexibility, yeah.
Yeah, and so I spent that time and not really having much friends playing so much into the nights. Like those were the times where I would actually wait, like go to sleep at like 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
because I was playing it so much.
Yeah.
Um, it didn't like ruin my life, thankfully,
Yeah.
because I think I don't, there came a point eventually where I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so antisocial. Like
Yeah.
I do not have any friends here. Like I I cannot do this. And
Yeah.
eventually, like I actually went left my room and talked to people and like left that life, kind
Wow.
of.
That takes actually
Yeah.
a lot of strength because to be honest, that is a form of addiction. Like I think video games have
hmm
a inherently addictive quality, so I'm glad you're able to. How long did it last?
I think just the first semester, like less than the first semester, like a
Yeah.
few months.
Yeah.
I was in a single room, but I had a
Yeah.
neighbor in the next single room. I remember one of the people, one of her friends coming and being like, "Oh, like, is your neighbor ever home? Like, guys, can we talk? You want to talk to her? Blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like, this is kind of
Oh
depressing."
no. But I'm glad they were checking in on you because they were worried. I think that is, I guess, good.
Yeah.
A little nosy, but.
It turned out
Yeah.
for the better, yeah. But yeah, no, video game addiction. I think it became like recognized as an actual addiction sometime
Yes.
in the past decade. I don't remember when.
Yes, I think I remember that. I don't remember the exact year, but I also remember it getting recognized. And I think it's a big part not only for the dopamine hit, but since the internet really helps people find their place and inclusiveness and
hmm
it can be sometimes more welcoming than the real world because you don't have to be sometimes judged just on your
hmm
direct 5-second appearance. You get the opportunity to like build your own world where you can control it and you sort
hmm
of understand the mechanics, right? The real world doesn't necessarily have
hmm
spelled out rules or mechanics or
Yes,
levels. Is really ambiguous, and there's a sense of comfort in that. This also reminds me of the Guild. Have you heard of the Guild?
the guild sounds familiar.
So I'm a huge fan of Felicia Day. Shout out to Felicia Day, she's real cool. But she wrote and starred in this comedy web series called The Guild, and it's
Okay.
about a group of people who are in the same guild and an MMORPG game. And her character in the game is Codex, and her character in real life not in real life, but in the show out of game, her character is Sid Sherman, and how through the guild she ends up having some problems because she's not able to focus on her real life because the
Mm.
game ends up becoming very addictive and she ends up meeting with the guild in real life and they actually end up forming real friendship. It's kind of interesting and
Oh.
about how the game impacts their lives. And I liked it a lot. It also is a little bit based off Felicia Day. I think she used to play a lot of WoW in the
Mm.
early parts of her career, and it's sort of about how WoW I think it sort of impacted a lot of that. I don't know if she was addicted to WoW at that point, but, it was based off her
Mm.
yeah, actually, it says it was based off her experiences with World of Warcraft addiction, and,
Okay. Hmm.
which I know I have met people who had a WoW addiction for sure.
Oh no.
Yeah, that is definitely
Yeah.
a game that was big for that.
Yeah, that one, and I think I heard which one other games were Call of Duty. I think was another game that was. I
Yeah.
think that one was one of like ones that were like the face of video game
A
addiction.
After we graduated, Melina,
Yeah.
Sims 4. I don't know if you remember, I played a lot of Sims 4. I
Oh,
used to share screenshots. I was doing the 100 baby challenge. I was designing
okay.
houses. I still do that. Sometimes I send you guys screenshots in the group chat. I'm
Mm.
like,
I feel like some things are almost more acceptable than others.
yeah.
Like Sims 4 is kind of like, oh, we're like building a life and making a house and things, versus like, oh, we're gonna go and kill and shoot everyone in this
Yeah,
game.
there's less violence. You can be violent in The Sims, but I do think
Ah.
it's one of those games where, you can still get married and have kids, which is the thing
Mhm.
that made World of Warcraft so addictive too, right? Like you could actually have a whole life inside of the game. Like I think what
Oh.
really broke is I used to spend weekends where I would just play Sims 4.
Mm.
And I would be doing it and I wanted my character to have such a good life and she was like doing the dishes and I looked behind me and my own physical sink was full of dishes and I was like, "Oh, this is a low point in my life, isn't this?"
Oh no.
Yeah. Gotta take breaks because then my butt would hurt because my chair wasn't that comfortable. That's how you really stop your gaming. You get a really uncomfortable chair and you set a
Mm.
timer. No, it
Mm.
doesn't help. It really honestly, these are all hacks for something that is truly an addiction. So
Yeah. If you have a video game addiction, anyone out there can go to get some support and maybe look for some therapy if needed.
yes.
I've heard that BetterHelp is great for getting therapy, and if BetterHelp was sponsoring us, we would be throwing in a plug for them.
Episode 4, Melina looking for our next sponsor. No, I think it's very true. Please remember to seek help. Addiction is addiction. And in the show, actually, we've talked about substance abuse addiction, alcohol
Mm.
addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Substance abuse, I guess alcohol is also a substance. But and video game addiction is also real. So please get help if you need help. Very important.
Mm-hmm.
So when Todd shared this story, I felt for Todd in
Yes.
that way where I was like, oh, I see a lot of the characters have addiction as a common thread. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I guess maybe my life experience I could relate to Todd a little bit more. I really felt
Mm.
for him.
I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal. Like I thought it
Yeah.
was just like, oh, this happened in my life. Just like, oh, I was running away from the Russian
Yeah.
mafia for a year. I'm like, oh, it's just another Todd thing.
Yeah.
um, but then the whole Bojack using that to sabotage him was completely out of the
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah, I knew that was coming and I already cringed. I was like, "Oh, I know this happens." Like Bojack was all game until he was like, "Oh, this I think this means I can move out." And
Hmm.
Bojack was like, "Fuck no." And
Yeah.
immediately afterwards he does this. He hired actors.
Yeah, when he was like he seemed genuinely interested in doing a rock opera and like helping him out. Yeah,
Yes.
but then it's
He
like,
eventually gave
yeah.
good feedback to Todd too. Like
Mhm.
he was
Mhm.
invested as a real mentor.
Uh-huh. Until he got cold feet thing. Like the whole screen. And then like cuz at first I was like thinking like why this person woman looks really familiar. I'm like, "Wait a minute." And then I like went back and I saw like she was a person who was asking Todd to get her like the
Yes.
other thing, and that made him see the video game, so it was all planted.
Yes. Plus,
Ah.
I feel like the video game looks so shiny, and he was like, "Oh, it hasn't come out yet," and it's 25 cents in that bin. Suspicious. And even the chameleon, I think, who was at the register, he just like takes the scent out of Todd's hand. Is that a legal transaction? I knew he was a hired actor at that point. I was like, even the guy at the register
Oh.
for sure,
I
right?
thought he was just being greedy. Like, "Oh, you touched it, so now you have to buy it."
Well, no actual, like, cashier at, like, a convenience store cares that much. About 25 cents. They get paid minimum wage, Melina.
I guess it's this is a show. I don't know what people do. He grabbed it with his tongue. I don't know what what if that
True.
wasn't just normal.
There's some level of, suspension of disbelief that we have to have. No, and you know what was hilarious is the pettiness of Bojack going back and being like, "I don't have the receipt, but I want this returned." And I was like, that's just so Bojack. But the receipt, the setup that the receipt is under the couch. What do you think is gonna happen?
So I think someone's gonna find it. I don't know
Yeah.
if Todd will find it or if someone else might find it.
Yes.
I feel Diane might find it because I feel like I feel like Diane might find it because she hangs around the
Yes.
house a lot and she actually
Yes.
notices things. Unlike Todd, who just goes around and trips over his own stuff.
He did make a rock opera. You don't know. He might notice it. But yeah, Diane
True.
maybe.
I feel like she'll probably also bring it up
Yes.
in her like
Diane
she
definitely
might,
seems to
yeah.
be confronting Bojack on his problematic
Yeah.
behavior, which is nice.
Yeah. But then I also feel that Diane might also face some obstacles because like with the whole like Wayne trying to tell her like, oh, like why are you trying to be like someone who you're not?
I think that that is important, but I also think that Wayne is such a creep. Have we talked about
He
this?
is a creep, yes.
Yeah, like that is a red flag. Definitely don't get back together with Wayne. That is unhealthy stalking your ex, sir.
I feel like he's one of those like jealous exes who's like they would or like the abusive exes who'd be like, "Oh, you can't get with anyone better than me, so you better stay with
Yeah.
me," kind of thing. And I feel like
Yeah.
that the whole like always need to stick together. I feel that that was just a line, like basically another rendition of.
RUN. Run.
But I also feel that Wayne's very stuck in his like Zoe mindset. So
Yes.
I feel like he doesn't want Diane to be like leaving, not only just because he quote unquote loved her, but
Yeah.
also because it's like he might see that she's becoming like a better person as
Yeah,
she's
she's
like
growing. Some people
growing.
wanna trap you
Mhm.
and don't want you to better yourself or grow in the
Yeah.
same way that Bojack is doing that to Todd. Todd
Mhm.
is pursuing his own dreams,
Mhm.
and Bojack doesn't want that because he
Mhm.
selfishly wants someone to just be there for him because he knows he needs
Yeah.
help and he doesn't know how to ask for it, but he instead is
Mhm.
sabotaging Todd to sort of
Mhm.
be stuck in his world with him, which isn't healthy
Yeah.
either.
And I feel like not only just let him not to just get like Todd just to stuck, but also
Mhm.
because like Todd like really looks up to Bojack. Like he tells Bojack
Yes.
all the time, like you're my inspiration, like blah blah blah. Like I feel like that's another reason. Like
I
other
can't
than
believe
Bojack,
Todd still looks up to him having
yeah,
lived with him.
I don't know why he looks up to him. Was that ever
Yeah.
explained, or does that
No,
like
I don't think
explain
he
later
looks up to him
on?
that much, but he definitely does,
Okay,
you're right, which I'm like, "You've seen this guy do some pretty awful things. At what point do you,
yeah,
be like, slap, 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 get your life together?" But I think Todd does that, but he still respects him, so I think they've created a bond that's very special.
and very special. I don't.
I think
I
that's
want to
called
know how
friendship,
they
Melina.
met, unless they
They
explained that.
mention it. They mention that
Okay,
Bojack had a party, and Todd
okay,
showed up at the party and then didn't leave, which is
yeah, but
isn't that
like
what Sarah Lynn did? So, no,
I
Sarah Lynn was the one who hosted the party.
I don't know. I don't know if they'll like show more of it later on because I feel
Mhm.
like there's more. There should be more than just like, oh yeah, he stayed and didn't leave. Like,
Yeah, I think that we have, a few seasons, don't worry, we'll talk about stuff.
okay, I guess.
One thing we didn't talk about that I really wanna bring up because it is a segment, the weird animal things that happened.
Oh, I noticed too.
Okay, share with me then.
Okay, one of them was a rooster that was running in the morning time and was yelling like, "It's morning!"
Oh my god, I didn't notice that! I didn't know. Oh my god, that's so great! I love it, I love it. Okay, yeah, oh, that rooster, 10 out of 10. What was
Yes.
their second one?
And then Bojack was talking with Princess Carolyn. I forget about what, but it was something about like birds being pushed out of the nest.
Yes, that's the same one I have as my second. Yes, I also noticed too. He was like, "Birds getting pushed out of the nest," and Bojack's like, "I know when that will happen." And you see him with a pigeon person, and they clearly that pigeon person has pushed a baby bird out of the apartment. I have so many questions because I was like, when was Bojack with this pigeon person?
Yes. And
Yeah, the
also, did the pigeon person push her own baby
baby.
out of the
Yeah, I'm like, oh
nest?
no, this is a word. Like, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that was a that left more questions. I thought it was so hilarious. I don't know if I'm a bad person, but it was hilarious. My favorite, I don't know if
Mm,
you caught this, 829, they were sawing wood for the rock opera sets and they
okay.
used a beaver to as the saw.
Oh, I did not notice that.
They
Oh my
like
gosh.
literally took there was a beaver and then they like they bent him down and he like was nibbling on the wood. And I
Oh,
was like, I guess that's it's a energy efficient, really green, low emission saw right there.
I guess,
Yeah.
but as long as I guess the beaver sign up for the job, gets paid for it, and
Yeah,
is
he's a carpenter by profession and birth.
okay, then we're good.
Then we're good,
That is
yeah, as long as
hilarious.
there's consent and there's no exploitation, then
Yes.
it's fine. One thing that I do feel bad, really bad about Bojack's, like, sabotage is that he
Mm.
not only ruins his chance, but he
Mm.
burns the future bridges for him. He makes it so bad that he will not be able
Oh.
to actually be able to complete it in the future. And I thought that was a little bit cruel. Like, yeah, you can mess him up so he doesn't get this one, but he made it so bad when he came in. He just sort of like dissed Todd more, and I was like, oh, you really burnt this bridge completely into the ground. Like that was pretty bad.
Oh, like when he was like pulling Todd out of the, I guess, audition or whatever,
Oh,
and
the
like
auditorium, or
yelling, yeah,
yeah, the
auditorium.
theater. He made it so much worse. I was like, oh no,
Yes.
you already did damage. Why are you gonna make it even worse?
I guess he
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure there was no chance.
it's cruel, man. It's cruel.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, or what do you think happens next? We talked about the receipt, the photos.
Oh yeah, the photos, which were kind of funny because like the birds were trying to blackmail him. He just like, yeah, I'm gonna just buy and hung up.
I think it was a great commentary. The amount of spam phone calls I get, I don't even pay attention when I get phone calls. It's true. It's true. Do you
Hmm.
actually pick up phone calls anymore?
I mean, sometimes like if sometimes it's like if I am expecting something,
Yes.
but then most of the time it's just like, oh, we are the federal. You are being charged $10,000 unless you call us this
Yeah, please give
number.
us your SIN number.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And
but
you're
yeah,
like,
there's
great,
like a
thanks.
lot of
Or it's
spam.
like sometimes not in English.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's about a post office drop. When it's not in English, it's really easy for me to be like, this is
No.
not someone I know. It's great. It's like you just wait for the first character, like, thanks, you made it so much easier for me to delete this. Especially my voicemail is always filled with this. I'm like, ah. I feel bad for the older citizens that I think really get preyed on by this,
Oh,
right? Like seniors,
yeah,
definitely they're trying to prey on them more. And that's just, I feel like that's such a low
it
blow,
is.
man, right? Like, what are you doing?
I do think that there are some of them are getting smart. Even the seniors, I think,
Yes.
are kind of wising up to it. Because like I
Yes.
used to have to for my work, I used to have to call like order folks
Mhm.
for legitimate things, not because I'm a scammer.
Yes.
And then like a lot of them actually had like call control on their phone. Like some of
Hey.
them would literally just be like, "Oh, this number is not on service," and it'll go beep 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 beep. And I'm
Yes.
thinking like, but if you wait like maybe like 5 to 10 seconds, then someone actually answers.
Yes.
So I'm guessing like for actual like spam, it would like deter scammers being like, oh, this is or like the
Yes.
fake like the phone automated calls. They'll just be like, oh, just hang up right away.
Yes.
But yeah.
That's actually cool. I think my parents actually installed something like that before
Oh,
they just
okay.
got rid of their landline. Now we don't have a landline.
Oh, okay, okay.
But before they were really frustrated because they would get so many also because my sister and I used to still have that landline number as ours for a lot of different like accounts and stuff. So you would just get so
Uh,
much spam that would be even for us. Like the university would call my parents and ask for like donations.
oh
And because they
no.
had 2 kids that went there, they would just get it spammed all the time. I don't know if your parents get that type of spam. Does for your brother and you?
So in terms of the university, so the funny thing is, I actually worked at the my university's like calling for donations thing, and I am, oh my
Oh, you
gosh,
weren't one of those people.
oh my god, I only worked there for a few months and I
Yeah.
hated it. Like the philosophy of it, I'm like, why are you not asking like the community, like actual businesses for like
Yes.
money? Like, why are you asking alumni? I'm like, okay, alumni I can get, but like, why are you
Yeah.
asking current students and their families for money? Like,
Yeah.
and even when I'm talking to family members, they're also asking me, why are they paying so much in tuition? Why ask for more money? I'm thinking like, I know this is very stupid too. I don't want to agree with this either. I didn't say that on the phone, but
Yeah.
like
You get in trouble.
but like to but then they were telling us like I think in the training they were saying like to get off the list like the person has to explicitly say like
Yes.
I don't want to donate, please take me off the list.
Yes.
Otherwise if we just say like I don't want to donate, we'll just be being like okay, we'll just take them off for this semester, but then next year we'll give them a call again.
Exactly. I That's a good point. I think that's a good note to know for everyone. Explicitly ask,
Hmm.
because I think we live in this world where sometimes we feel like, oh, it's not polite and we want to end it that way. But a lot of the legalese for these processes are you have to explicitly say something. I had a friend in middle school who worked door to door sales. I
Hmm.
think middle school or early high school, she worked door to door sales. What she told me was that she could keep pushing. She was told in her training she was allowed to keep pushing unless you explicitly said the word no. If you
Hmm.
said anything polite, but you didn't explicitly just say no, she
Hmm.
could keep pushing you,
Mm.
right? She could keep selling, right? And they would encourage that behavior. If they're like, oh, not right now, or like, you know what, maybe come by later, or like, haha, maybe today's not a right good time,
Hmm.
she could keep pushing. That was
Hmm.
the idea. Like, you can keep pushing. You just have to say no, and just that's it. And she
Mhm.
sometimes said she didn't mind it because then that meant, like, she was done, she could just move on,
Yeah.
right? But, like, otherwise she'd have to keep pushing, and sometimes people would give in, and she'd feel bad.
Yes. Just say no. No explanation just needed. Just say no. For any kind of situation.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. That is a great
Mhm.
takeaway from our side tangents, but great takeaway nonetheless.
Yes.
Did you have any takeaways from this episode, though?
Any takeaways? If you feel that either your ex suddenly shows up and for whatever reason, there might be very suspicious. And doesn't matter if they're trying to be nice. There probably doesn't mean that if they're saying, "Oh, I'm doing this for work on your current boyfriend, oh ho ho," or girlfriend,
Yep.
oh ho ho. They're probably suspicious, and keep your eyes out on them.
Yep, I think that's a good tip. Yeah, they could just be regular people, but there's no harm in just keeping your eyes. Be wary.
Yes,
Be wary. I
yes,
think the other one is you should support your friends and
yes.
be supportive and mentor
Mhm,
them and help them in any way. And if that means they go away and
mhm,
fly away, that's okay because,
mhm,
good friends still keep in touch. And
mhm,
in our life, we move. Some connections are stronger at some point, some connections get weaker, and that happens.
mhm.
And it is scary to be alone, but I would rather we support each other and help each other grow than let the fear of being alone hold each other back.
Yeah, and like even if you put yourself like not in the supportive friend's shoe, but the actual
Mhm.
person who's like trying to grow, and imagine all your
Yes.
friends are telling you, "Oh my gosh, you suck. This will never
Yes.
fly." Like
It
that's a
sucks.
horrible feeling.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it sucks to be defeated by your friends. You don't wanna be surrounded
Mhm.
by those people. That's another takeaway. Don't be surrounded by people who are just constantly negative towards you and your dreams and your goals. You
Yes.
gotta yeah, you may not succeed. Sometimes you'll
Mhm.
suck, but you gotta
Mhm.
keep pushing.
Yeah, and
And
they might not
also
be your friend.
yeah, they might not
Just
be
in
a friend.
case.
Also, get help for addiction, whether that's video games, substance abuse. I think we didn't mention this before in the past 3 episodes. We 100% should. Get help. If you need
Yes.
help, get help. There is always access to resources and links.
Mhm.
You are not alone. I have the final question
Oh.
that I think finally makes sense this episode. Melina, do you think Bojack is a good person? He
I
hasn't
think
murdered anyone,
he hasn't
but
murdered anyone, but he has manipulated people and harmed
yes.
people.
Yes.
Explicitly harmed. I guess technically, like his in his last episode, his actions did harm Sarah Lynn, but like I feel that they were both harming each other, so it wasn't
Yes.
clear. But in this episode, he was clearly harming and sabotaging Todd, even though
Yes.
Todd does not know, but we know
Yes.
as the viewers.
Yes.
I'll be interested to see what he does later on
Yes. But
in
you
the
haven't
future.
condemned him yet? I'm curious.
I'm starting to see like how he can be a not good person.
Yes. I think
um.
you mentioned this last time too, so we could probably hold off on asking this question. But
Mhm.
I do think sometimes his actions aren't great and they're
Mhm.
not reflective of a good person, but I don't think that inherently makes him good or bad. I think he
Mhm.
sometimes makes bad choices and he does bad
Mhm.
things, but
Mhm.
I think you can still redeem yourself.
Mhm.
Maybe there's an extent at which we won't think that anymore. So I'll be interested to know. But I think you can always redeem yourself. You can always grow as a person. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think he can come back
Yeah.
from this. I think he was bad to Todd, but
Yeah. I mean, I guess it really depends on what he does in the future. Like if he
yes,
continues to just sabotage everyone around him, it's
yes,
like, well then.
yes.
There's only so much people can take.
Yeah. So we'll
So
find out how that goes.
yes, in the next episode, which everyone should watch along with us if you haven't watched it yet, 4 to 5 years ago.
Tune in. Yakkin' About Bojack is produced, recorded, and edited by Melina and Aditi. Music is by Podcast Co's royalty-free album Keep Calm and Podcast, the song One Fine Day. All thoughts in this podcast are personal opinions. If you or someone you know is experiencing issues with addiction, substance abuse, or any of the topics mentioned in this episode, please know there is hope and seek professional help.